Hey guys, welcome to our show. Today we have Sarah from Tweed Valley and her beautiful garden. Thanks for opening your beautiful house for us. Thanks for being on the show.
Yes, pleasure.
Let's get started by getting to know you a little bit better. So, how did your journey on learning how to grow food or forests or nature, how did that start?
Well, I've always been interested in vegetables on the side, in the garden. My dad particularly was a great vegetable grower, but it was my niece in the Caribbean who got me started in connecting to you guys because you had been her mentor. And she said to me, gosh, I'd met this amazing Australian guy who knows so much about soils and growing things. And the size of Australia, and I thought, oh, he's probably somewhere miles away. It turned out you were 30 minutes down the road from me. So she'd been at me to meet you. And at the time, we were going out camping at Broken Hill. And she said, they've got a course coming up in Lightning Ridge. And I thought, Lightning Ridge is virtually desert almost, How could you be growing vegetables there? We didn't manage to go to the course because the times didn't work, but it triggered me to think, well, if you could grow vegetables in Lightning Ridge, you could grow them anywhere.
For those who are watching and doesn't know anything about Australia, Lightning Ridge is a black opal country, like 10 hours away from the coast, inland, where literally to break the soil, we had to start with a jackhammer, and we start planting cactus, and now we got a rainforest in the place. And I love how this web of life works. That I met someone in Barbados in the Caribbean that actually is related to you, and she's like, oh, you should meet my auntie. She's in Australia. I said, where in Australia? In Moolooba. I said, oh my God, in the Tweed Head. I live very close to her, and now here we are. Thanks for being on the show.
Yes, my daughter was very interested. She grows everything, loves to grow. And she said, well, let's go on one of your courses. And that got me started. And then we thought, well, have we got any flat land? Because we live in the hills in the Tweed Valley. And although we have acreage, it's covered in trees and it's land for wildlife. And I thought, where could we fit this in? So we found a little spot just under a year ago now. And we've had, an agroforest in there since then, using all the syntropic principles.
So going back when I first came to visit you, you had this garden that you're trying to grow food. There was like a little cage. Like you're trying to punish the plants, keeping them enclosed into a cage. And how was that? Like when I looked at it, I said, oh my God. And the plants were not doing well. You're still fighting because the birds were eating it, the wallabies were eating it. So you built a full cage around the garden. And I told you about growing in an open air, like nature likes to grow. And I remember your reaction said, wildlife won't let us grow here. We are in the middle of the rainforest.
Well, it's interesting because during COVID lockdowns, I decided to start photographing and recording the wildlife on our property. And I found that we had over 1,000 species and still going, but there were over 550 species of butterflies and moths. And I thought they all have caterpillars. And I thought, how am I going to grow vegetables with all of these things? But it's interesting, and you'll see the results shortly when we go out in the garden.
And going back to what we try to teach is that we are part of nature. We are not a part of nature. And trying to explain to you that everything is one living organism, that you can't keep them out. There is no out.
Yeah.
It's one big body. And trying to explain that to you, I said, okay, let's go to a workshop. And then there we can see how plants can grow together. And what was your first impression of what you've seen? And how could you relate that to growing food in your own backyard?
It was really interesting and really good to be going back to nature and working with nature. And that very much related to our thinking and philosophies about things. It was hard to make decisions about letting go of some of my beliefs. But I really liked the fact that it didn't require watering. Because to me, we live on tank water. We don't have rain all the time. I've just been away for 2 months. We have had 10 millimeters about 2 weeks into that period and no other rain till the last week. And we had 4 millimeters and then 4 millimeters. And the garden, I just left it. And it's all there and it's all still producing and it didn't need watering. And that to me was, you had me on that. And then the low maintenance, I go into a garden. Yes, we have definitely a maintenance when we set up for the season, but then it's just keeping it on track and making sure that nature is just doing its thing.
Yeah.
And that's for me to let go and let nature has probably been the challenge, that you don't need to fertilize it. You don't need to add all these things. You don't need to, but just the less you do, the better. And that really suited me.
And also, for all our viewers here, so they can understand a little bit of the context, so what we're working with or who you are. You've been actually nature, part of nature, working with nature for 20 plus years. You're part of the land care movement. You've been actually working with nature, but you learned a lot how to plant trees and let them grow and live it.
Yes. And I think, we've lived here over 30 years. And
there was nothing here when you first got here, was it?
Some was, the trees and things were here, but we have added to that and reforested areas, definitely. And but mostly we've just let it get on with being it.
Yeah.
Let the rainforest alone. We don't do anything. We just leave it. And we also became accredited for Land for Wildlife during the COVID era, around that time.
What does it mean?
It basically means that our land is preserved and looked after to encourage wildlife and help it grow. And for us, it means we actually do very little with it. But we are actually thinking about that when we replant areas. We're conscious of what's in this environment. We've had a list of all the property, the plants on the environment. So even within the Syntropic Agroforestry project, we tried to use the trees that were in this area, the trees that were on our property as much as we could. And then we've been reforesting a bit. It's been caught with the landslip of 2017, and we've been replanting all of that. And we've used our learnings both from what we knew about planting trees and what grows in this region, and combined it with our knowledge of syntropy and regenerative agriculture. And I didn't realize at the beginning what a huge movement this is.
Yeah.
And it's been a real journey of learning for me, which I have embraced totally. I find it absolutely inspirational how farming is changing, how we grow our food is changing, the nutritional value of our food and what's the impact on that by how we grow it. And I found all of that fascinating, and I'm really glad to be part of this incredible movement.
So your journey must have impacted yourself a lot, your family, but most of all your community, your local community. Most of these produce here is, or if it is not from you, it is from the neighbors that you exchanged. Tell us a little bit about that and what's your point of view or how that impacted the community?
It's really nice for our family because it's a family project. So my daughter and myself very much have been the two behind it. My grandchildren love it. Since they come, Granny, can we go up the garden? Can we go up the garden? They like to dig. They like to pick things. Always the snow peas disappear. The tomatoes disappear with the grandkids around, just eaten straight off the vines. But that's the way it should be. Yeah. And it's really nice that they're growing up with a passion for outdoors, for growing things. Also, it's full of insects and bugs and ladybugs and stick insects and all those things that live in my garden. And I love that. They love that. And when you go up today, you'll see that the elderflowers are flowering. Beautiful white heads, lovely. And I resisted picking them because things basically get picked and used straight away. And they're covered in little insects that are pollinators and all of these things, which is lovely to see. So they're growing up with wonder about nature, a love of nature, a love of gardening. I'm beginning to get them trained on, you'll see, it's a very large heap of mulch. So, weekend project, they'll come up here and we've got to start. They're just getting the age now that they'll be good at spreading mulch. But it's that involvement in the outdoors and appreciation, understanding where food comes from, the quality of food. I'm very involved with our neighbourhood. So just from here, we swap things. There's my neighbour's garlic, and I've got lemons from another neighbour, and we make a lemon and ginger drink. So I gave her ginger and she brought me lemons. So we have a network around us. I've got another neighbour who produces honey and eggs. So we're just starting an exchange of eggs, which would be really lovely in the area. So it's really nice that we have that community, and we've now got a community come and help. So my friend who has the honey, he's just been down and helped us. We've had a group of 9 of us when we did the spring reset, and I put on lunch. and everybody comes. At the end of the day, they go home with vegetables and friendships.
So basically, they were all doing the individual things at home, and then once we started here, because we're gonna see where we started planting these, it's right on the street. Like literally, we really took the only space that there was sunlight, because they did an amazing job on reforestry in the whole property. So, but that like invited so many people around, not only the close neighbors, but also they talk to other neighbors too.
They do, and I've had 2 people approach me from driving past, and they know me. We've lived here a very long time, part of the community, and said, I want to do what you're doing. It looks fantastic. What is it? So we now have 2 other neighbours who are starting Syntropic gardens. They've both got acreage on farms, which is quite different from what we've got, which is really a hillside covered in beautiful trees that we like to keep. And so now we've got a group of us and we're sharing knowledge, and we've arranged that, well, if you are resetting for summer, we'll all come and help you, you come and help us. And I think one of the things I like about the regenerative agriculture movement and Syntropics is that it is from the ground up. It's not great big corporations, it's individuals, it's farms, it's then communities. And I'm amazed at how many people are now doing these types of farming.
So we get to see food security, checked. Okay, community, checked. And then we have connection, teaching the kids how to grow food, checked. And then I heard you telling us about you still go to the farmer's market.
I do.
But you don't buy as much as you used to. You know?
This morning we bought eggs and berries.
Wow.
That's all that we buy now in the markets, because everything else we produce here. And this feeds our family and it feeds my daughter's family. And when we start at the beginning, because when you start, the tree rows produce vegetables as well as trees. And then after the first season, that's gone. But we would have been supplying to probably 12 or 13 other families. And we traded it with our local French patisserie for croissants, for vegetables. And I just gave loads away to people, and we gave it some of the charity shops. And the thing that I hadn't budgeted for, the time it would take me to harvest the volume of vegetables in the first year it produced. And, this year we said, right, we're not doing nearly as many yellow squashes, because we were like picking 30 yellow squashes a day. And you can't eat them. I couldn't give them away fast enough. Zucchinis, cucumbers, all of these things. It was a lovely problem, and it was really nice because we were able to share. And to me, the garden is about sharing. It's about abundance. Picked about 60 tomatoes yesterday, and we ate about 30 of them yesterday. And I've got these for today because the king parrots came along and they like them when they're green. So I picked everything I could. Okay. Would you like to try some of my tomatoes?
Oh, I love it.
These are beautiful. I can give you some straight off the tree when we go up there, but they're lovely.
It tastes so different from the ones that we buy at the supermarket, doesn't it?
These ones are pink tomatoes. These ones are different ones. It's nice to have all sorts of different ones. And these ones are lovely looking. They've got red lines through the greens that come stronger as they ripen.
Oh,
so it's nice. You try one of those ones as well? Try that one. They're all slightly different in flavour. I have cherry tomatoes.
I'm having a feast.
Try some of those. These are lovely, and they grow up amongst my passion fruit vine. Who would have thought to grow tomatoes amongst your passion fruits? I won't give you these to eat, but these are my gingers.
You can cut it
eat
in.
You can cut a bit for you. So I've got cabbages. So on the weekend, I made a roast chicken dinner for the family, and we had roast pumpkin and garden herbs with potatoes out of the garden, baby leeks out of the garden roasted in, and I have also a lemon myrtle tree. And so I stuffed the chicken with native lemon myrtle, and it was delicious, just beautiful. And everything was out of the garden.
I love how it makes us think about what's growing around us, what grows when.
Yes.
When is the right time to plant it? When is the right time to harvest it? And there is so much for us to learn that it's not actually always on the books, and they don't teach us how to grow food in harmony with nature. It's always about you bring that much, you make a $200 haul, put a $50 tree in it and let it grow by itself. When actually what we're going to see there today, it's so many plants growing together in such a small space.
Yes, and I think that to me flows through into my cooking. So I don't start with a shopping list of, okay, here's a recipe, I need these ingredients. I do 180 degrees. So I say, wow, this is what I've got today. Beautiful tomatoes. I'm going to make something lovely for lunch with tomatoes. I've then got pumpkins. What can I do with the pumpkins? I've got herbs. I've got cassava. I've got ginger. Oh, I could do something with ginger and pumpkins. I've got lemons and I've got ginger. So I make a drink out of that. So everything I do is different. Oh, what are these?
Right.
So as I say, I have a whole community around me with people who garden, and we swap and share. So this is actually a Cape gooseberry. And if you like Cape gooseberries, I had never grown Cape gooseberries in my life. And my naturopath gave me a bush, says, you're planting a garden, Sarah, have some Cape gooseberries. So now I have grown beautiful Cape gooseberries. They're just delicious.
And then people ask. That's a good time to ask now, because making a garden like this it's not actually easy. It costs time, it costs money, it costs energy of people that will come to help. But harvesting these and eating these fresh from the garden, the learnings no one can take away from us.
No, you have it for life, and it's transformed the way that you think about all this. It transforms the way you think about food, and we eat a much healthier diet now because most of what we eat is out of the garden. We don't produce our own meat. That's another story, and that's not going to happen. We just don't have the space. But I can trade for things like that.
For me, this is priceless.
Yeah.
You know, getting to know your community, getting to know your food, getting to know your body, getting to know your seasons, getting to know that we are connected to the house, not the house that we live in, but the planet house that we live in. It's a beautiful house. It's a beautiful home that we got to learn how to live in harmony with it.
Yeah.
I keep telling people that there is a learning curve, that most of the time you learn, you see your mistakes, and you go back to the drawing table, start again. So being with Syntropic Solutions, how did that help you to speed up that learning process?
Oh, I'm so glad I did. If I'd started trying to do it really from a book, I would never have got it right. Firstly, to actually go to a course and understand, because it's a different way of thinking. It's a different way of thinking about growing things from what we're traditionally taught. So to actually see how you prepare the ground, what was the logic behind it. You know, my thinking brain is saying, so why are you doing this? And then we saw how to actually do it. And that was really valuable. I took a lot of notes as well because I'm a natural note taker. But when it came to actually designing a garden that I hope was going to be here for 50 or 100 years and be multi-generational, I felt that I actually want to get it right. I'm happy to make mistakes, but I'd like to make them on things that I can easily correct.
Yeah.
So it was really good to work with you to actually plan out what would be planted where and how we maximize what we actually wanted to eat versus what had to go into the system because it contributed to the system. And I'm a grandmother, so my idea for digging up 3 rows of 37 meters by hand didn't really appeal to me. I just felt that was something I would rather use some savings for. So we actually set the whole thing up in a week. And
so yeah, that was the designing process where you gave us a list of things that you wanted to grow. And then we came back to you say, yes, we can grow as much as the space and the weather and the conditions, the area where we live will allow us to do. And then after that, after you said, yes, that's where we're going with, we start planting. And tell us how many plants we got there.
Oh, gosh. Well, my initial shopping list was 774 plants. And Ingrid and I decided that we would actually really like to do that ourselves. So we thought that was a great adventure. Syntropic Solutions would have done it. So if you're not so keen, that's quite okay. They'll do it for you. But we thought that was part of the adventure, was actually going and locating the plants, choosing them. And we had a huge area of the back garden that was filled with plants. And then on top of that, we added all the seeds we put in for all the vegetables and all the seedlings of vegetables.
So there was over 1,000 plants planted in.
Oh, I would have thought there's probably about 1,500 plants all over went in. And that's another thing that amazed me because, you know, you buy seedlings and they say plant one every 30 centimeters. And this is just such dense planting because of the fact that it works on both the different layers of height, which was so logical to me, because I look out, in the rainforest around me, and there are ferns on the ground, and then there are bushes that grow at about 3 meters, all the way up to the gums, the palm trees, right up on the top. And I could relate that plants grow on different levels of light.
Yeah.
And so the stratification was just, yes, this is logical. And then when we talk about the times that plants live, and that some of the plants like the Davidson plums, we're planting those for 200 years worth of production versus, coriander, which will be in and out of the system within 6-7 weeks. So it was really interesting to look at what we call succession and learn about succession as to how do we plant, because, the coriander will use the light now, but that'll be gone in 2 months. And the Davidson plum doesn't need all that space today. So we can use that space to generate other plants. And of course, they all talk to each other underground and they all interact.
I tell her that she's my best student, and she loves it. We speak over on the phone for hours sometimes, like talking about her learnings, and the enthusiasm that I see coming from her. It fuels me to keep doing more of this, because I see how I'm changing not only you, but your family, but I'm helping to change the way that the community thinks about food, and I'm loving this journey. And it would be good for us to go to the garden and see how much we have planted, what is the space, or how it looks now, and hopefully everyone is enjoying it and can be part of your journey too.
So it's really nice to be able to take you up and show you the garden, and it's really hard to believe that a year ago this didn't exist. This was just a piece of flat grass on the side of the road that was something we had to mow every fortnight. And now we have this fabulous garden, and it was, as you say, it was the only bit of clear flat land we had, and it was the one that got the most sun. So when you look at what we've done with it, it's just amazing, really, when you look at it.
Wow.
But I love coming up here. I live with anxiety, and this just helps me terrifically. It's very calming, and the quality of the food has really helped my health as well. So I've been really impressed, and it's very stimulating for the brain because I've learned so much. And it's very good physically because I'm out here most days just for pleasure, and I'll go and do an hour in the morning, start my day, stretching, bending, clipping, cutting, looking at things, picking, and just sometimes just being.
Imagine that 1 year ago, this garden was nothing. That was exactly like this. So when you look at what you see here, grass, only grass. And to a lot of people, they would tell us that now it's impossible to grow anything here because, first of all, we are in the middle of the forest, that is too many trees, or we are next to the road, it's too compacted. And then when you go and look how much we have growing like in such a small space.
What I really like about it, and I can see it to scale that I was doing it, if I had land for a farm and I could do it on a farm, was that we've cut out all the costly inputs from the point of view of fertilizers. We don't use anything like that. We don't use any weed killers, all of those things. We don't use any pesticides. All of those costs have gone. I think it's really important that, to me, we share a good news story. In this age when there's so much doom and gloom, it's really amazing to work with something that offers so much excitement, so much hope, and you're part of change for good. One of the things I've found about the Syntropic movement and then the larger regenerative movement is how incredibly positive and inspirational it all is.